Unit 1, Diversity in the Living World. Biology is the science of life forms and living process. The living world comprises an emerging diversity of the living organism. Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organism. Early man defined some of the inanimate matter, wind, sea, fire, etc., and some among the animals and plants. A common feature of all such form of inanimate and animate object was the sense of awe or fear that they evoked. The description of living organism, including human being, began much later in human history. Societies which indulge in anthropocentric view of biology could register limited process in biological knowledge. Systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in out of necessity detailed system of identification, nomenclature and classification. The biggest spin-off of such studies was the recognition of the sharing of similarities among living organisms both horizontally and vertically, that all present day living organisms are related to each other and also to all organisms that ever lived on this earth, was a revelation which humbled man and led to cultural movement for conservation of biodiversity. In the following chapter of this unit, you will get a description including classification of animals, plants from a taxonomic perspective. अब हम चलते हैं अर्नेस्ट मायर के साइंटिस्ट के जो बारे में जो बायोग्राफी है उसके रिलेटेड जानते हैं. ठीक है, उसके रीडिंग पढ़ रहा हूँ मैं अभी. देखो, born on 5 July 1904 in Kempten, Germany, Ernest Mayr, the Harvard University evolutionary biologist who has been called the Darwin of the 20th century, was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Mayr joined Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Science in 1953 and retired in 1975, assuming the title of Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. Throughout his nearly 80-year career, his research spanned ornithology, taxonomy, zoo geography, evolution, systematic. Ornithology का मतलब study of birds, and the history and philosophy of biology. He almost single-handedly made the origin of species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. He also pioneered the currently accepted definition of biological species. Mayr was awarded the three prizes widely regarded as the Triple Crown of Biology: the Belgian Prize in 1983, the International Prize for Biology in 1994, and the Crawford Prize in 1999. Mayr died at the age of 100 in the year 2004. Chapter on Living World. How wonderful is the living world! The wide range of living type is amazing. The extraordinary habitat in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountain, deciduous forest, ocean, freshwater lakes, desert, or hot springs, leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of the migrating birds, the valley of flower, or the attacking shark evokes away and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among population of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, make us deeply reflect on what it indeed is life. The question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seek answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is a philosophical one and seek answer to what the purpose of life. As a scientist, we shall not attempt answering the second question. We will try to reflect on what is living. अभी जो ये चीज़ अभी मैं पढ़ने जा रहा हूँ पैराग्राफ, वो न्यू एनसीईआरटी के अंदर नहीं है बट ओल्ड एनसीईआरटी के अंदर था और अभी एनसीईआरटी के नीट के सिलेबस में है, इसलिए पढ़ना ज़रूरी है. तो आप देखते हैं व्हाट इज़ लिविंग. व्हेन वी ट्राई टू डिफाइन लिविंग, वी कन्वेंशनली Look for distinctive characteristic exhibited by living organism. Growth, reproduction, ability to sense environment and mount a suitable response come to our mind immediately as a unique feature of living organism. One can add a few more features like metabolism, ability to self-replicate, self-organize, interact and emergence to this list. Let us try to understand each of these. All living organisms grow. Increase in mass and increase in number of individuals are twin characteristics of growth. A multicellular organism grows by cell division. In plant, the growth by cell division occur continuously throughout their lifespan. In animals, this growth is seen only up to a certain age. However, cell division occur in certain tissue to replace lost cell. Unicellular organisms grow by cell division. One can easily observe this in vitro culture by simply counting the number of cells under the microscope. In majority of higher animal and plant, growth and reproduction are mutually exclusive event. ये लाइन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. ए मेजॉरिटी ऑफ हायर एलिमेंट्स एंड प्लांट ग्रोथ एंड रिप्रोडक्शन आर म्यूचुअली एक्सक्लूसिव इवेंट. वन मस्ट रिमेंबर दैट इंक्रीज इन बॉडी मास इज कंसिडर एज ग्रोथ. नॉन लिविंग ऑब्जेक्ट ऑल्सो ग्रो इफ यू टेक इंक्रीज इन बॉडी मास एज ए सर्टेन क्रिटेरिया फॉर ग्रोथ. Mountain, boulder, sand mounds do grow. However, this kind of growth exhibited by non-living object is by accumulation of material on the surface. In living organism, growth is from inside. Growth therefore cannot be taken as a defining property of living organism. Condition under which it can be observed in all living organism have to be explained, and then we understand that it is a characteristic of living system. A dead organism does not grow. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organism. Reproduction defining property नहीं है बल्कि एक characteristic property है. In multicellular organism, reproduction refer to the production of progeny possessing feature more or less similar to those of parrots. Invariably and implicitly, we refer to sexual reproduction. Organism reproduced by asexual mean also. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the million of asexual spores they produce. In lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. In planaria, flatum, we observe true regeneration. A fragmented organism regenerates the lost part of its body and become a new organism. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. When it comes to unicellular organism like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth. अगर हम जो लोअर ऑर्गेनिज्म है जिस तरीके से बैक्टीरिया, यूनिसेलुलर, एमीबा, एक है ग्रोथ के सिमिलर है. मतलब ये लोग का प्रोजेनी बच्चा पैदा होना का मतलब है ग्रो हो रहा है. ये लोग increase in number of cell, we have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. Hence we notice that a single cell organism, we are not very clear about the uses of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. Mules, sterile or be infertile human couples. Hence, reproduction also cannot be all inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. Another characteristic of life is metabolism. All living organisms are made up of chemical. This chemical is small, big, belonging to various classes, size, function, etc. are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecule. These conversion are chemical reaction or metabolic reaction. There are thousands of metabolic reactions occurring simultaneously inside all living organisms, be they unicellular or multicellular. All plant, animal, fungi and microbe exhibit metabolism. The sum total of all the chemical reactions occurring in our body is metabolism. No non-living object exhibit metabolism. Metabolic reaction can be demonstrated outside the body in a cell-free system. An isolated metabolic reaction outside the body of an organism performed in a test tube is neither living nor non-living. Hence, while metabolism is a defining feature of all living organisms, without exception, isolated metabolic reactions in vitro are not living things but surely living reaction. Hence, cellular organization of the body is the defining feature of life forms. Perhaps the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms is the ability to sense their surrounding or environment and response to this environmental stimuli, which could be physical, chemical, or biological. We sense our environment through our sense organs. Plants respond to external factors like light, water, temperature, other organisms, pollutant, etc. All organisms from the prokaryote to the most complex eukaryotes. The complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues. Photoperiod affect the reproduction in seasonal breeder. Photoperiod affect the reproduction in seasonal breeder. Both plant and animal, all organisms handle chemical entering their bodies. All organisms therefore are aware of their surrounding. Human being is the only organism who is aware of himself, has self-consciousness. Consciousness therefore become the defining property of living organism. When it comes to human being, it is all the more difficult to define the living state. We observe patient laying in coma in hospital, virtually supported by machine which replace heart and lungs. The patient is otherwise brain dead. The patient has no self-consciousness. Are such patients who never come back to normal life, living or non-living? In higher classes, you will come to know that all living phenomena are due to underlying interaction. Properties of tissue are not present in the constituent cell but arise as a result of interaction among the constituent cells. Similarly, properties of cellular organelles are not present in the molecular constituents of the organelle but arise as a result of interaction among the molecular component comprising the organelle. This interaction results in emergent properties at a higher level of organization. This phenomena is true in the hierarchy of organizational complexity at all levels. Therefore, we can say that living organisms are self-replicating, evolving, self-regulating, interactive systems capable of responding to external stimuli. Biology is the story of life on earth. Biology is the story of evolution of living organism on earth. All living organisms, present, past and future, are linked to one another by the sharing of the common genetic material but to varying degree. Diversity in the living world. If you look around you, will you see a large variety of living organisms, weed, potted plant, insect, birds, your pets or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye but they are all around you. If you are to increase the area that you make observation in the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see much greater number and kind of living organism in it. Each different kind of plant and animal or organism that you see represent a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. These refer to biodiversity or the number and types of organisms present on earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plant and animal in the world. We know the plant and animal in our own area by their local name. This local name would vary from place to place. Even within a country, probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organism we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is identification. In order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedure to assign a scientific name to each non-organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plant, scientific names are based on agreed principle and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. You may ask, how are animal name? Animal taxonomists have evolved International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific name ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other non-organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principle to provide scientific name to non-organism. Each name has two components, the generic name and the scientific epithet. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific name better. The scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. तो इसके अंदर जेनेरिक नेम रहेगा और एक स्पेसिफिक नेम. जेनेरिक नेम का जो स्टार्ट होगा सबसे पहला वर्ड वो है वर्ड जो है ना, ये पहला जो लेटर जो स्टार्ट होगा वो कैपिटल से. इसके बाद जो स्पेसिफिक नेम जैसे मैंगीफेरा जो है ना जेनेरिक नेम वो स्टार्ट हुआ कैपिटल लेटर से. ठीक है, जो स्पेसिफिक नेम है इंडिका. ठीक है, तो इस इंडिका जो है ना वो स्मॉल लेटर से शुरू होगा, जो आई है ना स्मॉल इसके अंदर. लेट अस सी हाउ इट इज बाइनोमियल नेम. इन दिस नेम मैंगीफेरा रिप्रेजेंट द जेनस while the indica is a particular species or a specific epithet. Other universal rule of nomenclature are as follow. Biological name are generally in Latin एंड राइटिंग इन इटैलिक. मतलब लिख जनरली नाम जो होगा ना वो लैटिन में होगा बट लिखेगा किस में, इटैलिक में. दे आर लैटिनाइज और ड्राइव फ्रॉम लैटिन irrespective of their origin. The first word in a biological name represent the genus while the second component denote the specific epithet. Both the word in a biological name in the handwriting are separately underlined or printed in italic. जब प्रिंटेड होगा ना वो इटैलिक में होगा भाई, लिखेगा जो है ना वो इटैलिक में. टू इंडिकेट देयर लैटिन ओरिजिन द फर्स्ट वर्ड डिनोटिंग द जेनस स्टार्ट विद ए कैपिटल लेटर व्हाइल द स्पेसिफिक एपिथेट स्टार्ट विद ए स्मॉल लेटर. इट कैन बी इलस्ट्रेटेड विद द एग्जांपल ऑफ मैंगीफेरा इंडिका. Name of the author appear after the specific epithet at the end of biological name and it is written in abbreviated form. Mangifera indica Lin. It indicates that this species was the first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is the process by which anything is grouped into convenient category based on some easily observable character. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plant or animal, dogs, cat, insect. The moment we use any of this term, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of dog? Obviously each one of us will see dogs and not cat. Now if we want to think of Alsatians, we know what we are talking about. Similarly, suppose we are to say mammal, you would of course think of animal with external ears and body here. Likewise in plant, if you try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our mind will be of wheat plant, not the rice or any other plant. Hence all these dogs, cat, mammals, wheat, rice, plant, animal, etc. are convenient categories we use to study organism. The scientific term for this category is taxa. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different level. Plant also form a taxa, wheat is also a taxa. Similarly animal, mammal, dog are all taxa, but you know that a dog is a mammal and mammal are animal. Therefore animal, mammal, dogs represent taxa at different level. Hence based on characteristic all living organism can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure along with the structure of cell develop structure of cell. Developmental process and ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature are the process that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not a something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kind of organism, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic need for food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification are based on the uses of various organisms. Human beings are since long not only interested in knowing more about different kind of organism and their diversity, but also in the relationship among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematic. The word systematic is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organism. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. The scope of systematic was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematic takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. Taxonomic categories. Classification is not a single step but involve hierarchy of steps in which each step represent a rank or category. Since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category, and all categories together constitute the taxonomic hierarchy. Each category referred to as a unit of classification in fact represent a rank and it is a commonly termed as taxon, plural taxa, singular taxon. Taxonomic categories or hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insect represent a group of organisms sharing common feature like three pair of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete object which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Can you name other such a group of organism? Remember, group represent category. Category further denote rank. Each rank or taxon in fact represent a unit of classification. These taxonomic group categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregate. Taxonomical studies of all non-organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum, division or plant, class, order, family, genus, species. All organisms, including those in the plant and animal kingdom, have species as the lowest category. Now the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various category. The basic requirement is the knowledge of character of an individual or group of organism. These help in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individual of the same kind of organism as well as the other kind of organism. Species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological difference. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, potato, Panthera leo, lion. All the three names indica, tuberosum, leo represent the specific epithet, while the first one Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera are genera and represent another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet representing different organisms but having morphological similarity. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called Tegris. Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melangona. Human beings belong to the species Sapiens, which is grouped in the genus Homo. The scientific name thus human being is written as Homo sapiens. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more character in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregate of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species but both belong to the genus Solanum. Lion, Panthera leo, leopard, Panthera pardus, and tiger, Panthera tigris, with several common features, are all species of the genus Panthera. These genus differ from another genus Felis, which include cats. family. The next category, family, has a group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive feature of plant. ये लाइन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, देखिए, फैमिलीज आर कैरेक्टराइज्ड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ बोथ वेजिटेटिव एंड रिप्रोडक्टिव फीचर ऑफ प्लांट स्पीसीज. ये स्टेटमेंट बेस में आ सकता. अमोंग प्लांट फॉर एग्जांपल 3 डिफरेंट जेनेरा सोलानम, पेटूनिया, धातुरा are placed in the family Solanaceae. Among animal, for example, genus Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard is put along with genus Felis, cat, in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the feature of a cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some difference as well. They are separated into 2 different families, Felidae and Canidae respectively. Water. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus and families are based on number of similar character. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. Order, being a higher category, is the assemblage of families which exhibit a few similar character. The similar character are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. Plant family like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae are included in the order Polymonial, mainly based on the floral character. The animal order Carnivora include family like Felidae and Canidae. Class. This category include related order. For example, order Primata comprises monkey, gorilla and gibbon, is a place in class Mammalia, along with order Carnivora that include animal like tiger, cat, dog. Class Mammalia has other order also. Phylum. Classes comprising animal like fishes, amphibian, reptile, bird along with mammal constitute the next higher category called phylum. All these based on the common feature like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neural system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plant, classes with a few similar character are assigned to a higher category called division. Kingdom. All animal belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called kingdom Animalia in the classification system of animals. The kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and comprises all plant from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these 2 groups as animal and plant kingdom. The taxonomic category from species to kingdom have been shown in the ascending order, starting with the species in figure 1.1. These are broad categories. However, taxonomies have also developed subcategories भी होता है taxonomy का. तो जैसे देखिए किंगडम, फाइलम, क्लास, ऑर्डर, फैमिली, जेनस, स्पीसीज, ये जो है ना 1 2 3 4 7 है टोटल. ठीक है, टोटल 7 है. उसमें सब कैटेगरीज किसके अंदर होता है? 3 जो है ना, जैसे सब फाइलम, सब डिवीजन होता है, सब ऑर्डर होता है और सब फैमिली होता है. ठीक है, तो सब किसके अंदर होगा? 3 जो है ना, 3 टैक्सोनॉमी कैटेगरीज के अंदर सब आएगा. सब फाइलम आएगा, सब ऑर्डर आएगा, सब फैमिली आएगा. Look at the hierarchy of in figure 1.1. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say for example, as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristic goes on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more the characteristic that are member within the taxon here share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Hence the problem of classification become more complex. तो यहाँ पर एक टेबल देके रखे. टेबल के अंदर क्या है? जो मैन का जो है ना कॉमन नेम मैन है, बट इसका बायोलॉजिकल नेम होमो सैपियंस. जेनस होमो क्या है? जेनस है. सैपियन जो है ना स्पीसीज नेम है. वार्डर ह्यूमन बीइंग का मैन का वार्डर है प्राइमेटा. क्लास है मैमेलिया और इसका जो फाइलम है क्या है? कॉर्डेटा. हाउस फ्लाई कॉमन नेम, बायोलॉजिकल नेम हाउस फ्लाई का क्या है? मुस्का डोमेस्टिका. जेनस है मुस्का, फैमिली है मुसीडी है, वार्डर है डिप्टेरा, क्लास है इंसेक्टा, फाइलम है आर्थ्रोपोडा. मैंगो कॉमन नेम मैंगो, बायोलॉजिकल नेम है मैंगीफेरा इंडिका, जो ऑल ओवर वर्ल्ड में बताया जाता है. ठीक है, बोला जाता है मैंगीफेरा इंडिका. जेनस है मैंगीफेरा, फैमिली है एनाकार्डिसिए, वार्डर है सेपिंडल, क्लास है डाइकोटिलेडन, फाइलम है एंजियोस्पर्म. वीट बायोलॉजिकल नेम ट्राइटिकम एस्टिवम, जेनस ट्राइटिकम, फैमिली पोएसिए, वाटर पोल्स, मोनोकॉटिलेडन, क्लास मोनोकॉटिलेडन, बट इसका डिवीजन एंजियोस्पर्म है। देखो मैंगो और वीट का जो है ना फाइलम नहीं होता, इसका डिवीजन कहा जाता है। जो एंजियोस्पर्म है ना, ये क्या है, डिवीजन कहते हैं इसको, ठीक है। इस तरीके से अभी लिविंग ऑल चैप्टर खत्म हो गया। अभी चलो हम लोग शुरू करते हैं कौन सा चैप्टर, अभी हम लोग बायोलॉजिकल क्लासिफिकेशन चैप्टर शुरू करेंगे अभी। तो 1 मिनट रिलैक्स करते हैं, फिर हम लोग शुरू करते हैं बायोलॉजिकल क्लासिफिकेशन।